Um, so it's all yours, Lori, and welcome everybody.
Great. Thanks for putting this together and welcome forum participants. Today we want to welcome Michelle Hodge, who has been a corporate real estate and facilities professional for over 25 years. She started when she was 12, working predominantly in high growth, fast paced technology environments, including telecom, software, and biotech. She has led real estate and facilities developments, which have also included physical security and environmental health and safety groups. She provides strategic direction and management experience with skill and expertise in all aspects of corporate real estate and facilities operation, administration, expansion, and contraction. Michelle has a depth of international experience overseeing lease transaction build-outs and operations for locations throughout North America, South Central America, Asia, and Europe. She has managed land development and building purchases and dispositions. Michelle is currently the head of real estate and facilities for 10x Genomics, a Pleasanton-based biotech company that provides tools for researchers to cure disease. On everyone's minds these days, and thank you, Michelle, for being here. We look forward to seeing what you have to say about the new opportunity there in Pleasanton. It's all yours.
Thank you very much, and thanks all for your time this morning and asking me to join. It's always a pleasure to talk about 10x and to talk about our project. In looking at the 2025 vision, I really appreciate the way, well, it's not surprising you are the Chamber of Commerce, but the way you've woven in business with the rest of what is the vision for Pleasanton. And I particularly like that you included life science as a call out for a specific industry. So here we are, 10x Genomics is a life science company in Pleasanton, and we're very, very happy to be expanding our footprint in Pleasanton. So we have, I'll tell you first a little bit about 10x from a non-scientist view. If you have any questions beyond what I explain as far as what our product line is, please don't ask me. I won't know the answer. But if you've got questions about the project, then obviously I'm your go-to person here. And I may ask Steve Kalkana to help me out a little bit because he's pretty familiar with everything. So about 10x, mastering biology to advance human health. That's how our co-founders talk about what we're doing. And what our goal is. And I just realized I'm not sharing my screen, so that's not very helpful. Okay, there we go. And with that, we see these kinds of covers on magazines all the time about curing cancer, addressing Alzheimer's, doing a lot of brain studies, Alzheimer's and other things. And so this is what 10x is here to support. We provide tools to researchers to investigate diseases and what's going on in the human body and to fully understand that. Company started out 7 people in a garage in Pleasanton. It's the classic start story. And our co-founder, one of our co-founders, Ben Heinzen, lives in Pleasanton. And so this is where everything started, is in the garage. And since that time, we've grown into a global company. So this is in just about 8-9 years, grown into a global company with locations in North America and Europe and Asia. So some of the history, we're heading towards 1,000 employees quite quickly. About 600 of those are based at our Pleasanton headquarters. And with that, those numbers are around 1/3 are in the Tri-Valley area. And if we count what I would call adjacent Tri-Valley area, it's nearly half of our employee population. So we definitely have a center of gravity right here in Pleasanton. We went public a little over 1.5 years ago, which was of course very exciting for everyone in the company. So our customers are the top 100 research institutions and the top 20 pharma companies. And as I mentioned, we're global now. We have our manufacturing, and I'll talk a little bit about what we do at manufacturing, but we have that in Pleasanton. And last year we opened up another location in Singapore. That was a very interesting project to manage from a distance since I couldn't get over there because of the pandemic. About half of our sales are inside the country, inside the United States, and the other half are around the world. So we pulled together, what 10x does is pulls together all of these disciplines, so hardware, chemistry, software, biology, and data, and pulls it all together. Again, that's to help researchers figure out what is going on in the human body so that they can cure disease. Some of those products then we have, this is the hardware side. Our first product was this Chromium Connect. This was the first commercial project, Chromium controller. And then this Chromium Connect allows like some of the big pharma companies just to automate a lot of things and do things a lot more quickly. The consumables are what we produce in Pleasanton and now Singapore as well. And the way it works is you get a sample, a tissue sample, you put it in this tray here along with a different reagents. This is sort of where the magic happens, which is our gel beads, and also something called a microfluidic device. And then this tray kind of goes in like a DVD player, goes in, that's where the magic happens. And it takes that sample and divides it by coating it with an oil then encased in a water droplet. And it puts it in at a single cell level. And those gel beads, those kind of magical gel beads, which are one of the key proprietary products for 10x, then attach barcodes to those cells. That then goes through a sequencer. And then after the sequencer sort of spits out into the 10x software, where people who are much smarter than me can read the software and see what's going on with these various diseases and activities in the human body. Our product's been used in COVID research, so we're really pleased to be able to truly help the world with what researchers can do. So our products are used across a variety of different research application areas. Understanding the complexities of diseases such as cancer and Alzheimer, as I mentioned, and studying the signaling pathways that are crucial to an immune system response or cellular differentiation. They have, and I mentioned that first, that single cell Chromium controller that divides things into those single cells. We now have another product line called Visium that is on the slides, that if you see these slides down here, it doesn't take the controller, but the researchers take the sample, put these reagents on it, and then it analyzes that sample in more of a plan view. Our next product line is called In Situ, and that's been announced to be coming out in the not too distant future. And it sort of puts everything into a 3D perspective. So we're getting higher and higher resolution and more different ways for the researchers to look at what's going on to help them out. One of the ways that we mark our success is by how many times the 10x is published in these trade journals, because when a researcher uses a 10x product to make an important finding and then it gets published, then that means that 10x, we're basically doing our job to help those researchers find out what's happening. So now on to the project. We have, we're currently, well, as I mentioned, we started out in a garage, and then the company leased some space on Cole Center Parkway, grew to 3 different buildings there at Cole Center Parkway, and then we're outgrowing that area. And so then came up and leased 6230 Stone Ridge Mall Road from UBS, the landlord of Pleasanton Corporate Commons. So as of last year, we occupy the entire building. We've fitted it out to suit for 10x's purpose. So this is our headquarters building. It has R&D with their associated labs, and our general and administrative people, as well as our commercial team, which is sales and marketing. So when I came on board, it was right as we were moving into 6230. I started looking at that strategic plan for real estate in Pleasanton. Knew that we were going to be out of space in the not too distant future, so did a couple things. One, we've leased now as of last year 6210 Stone Ridge Mall Road as well, another 150,000 square feet. So we're leasing that floor by floor. We're currently fitting out the 5th floor of that building, and we occupy a portion of the 1st floor. And about every 6 months, we'll take another floor, build it out to suit to our purpose, and then move in. That's not enough for us. So we bought the land, the 1701 Springdale 14.5 acre site. And this is what we're proposing to redevelop. We will soon, in just the next few weeks, start to demolish the existing, unfortunately, very tired retail center that wasn't doing very well, which is why the owner wanted to sell it. Another activity that's going to happen for any of you who drive over into this area, there's a water line that runs on the property, which is, of course, not okay. And so as part of what we're doing for the redevelopment, we need to move that water line, that city water line, out into the public right of way. So it's going to go on Stone Ridge Mall Road here. So there's going to be a lot of activity for a couple of months on that. And as mentioned, we'll demolish the buildings. And we have our PUD application fully submitted to the city. So we're in the entitlement process. The CEQA documents were published about a week and a half ago. So those are out for public comment. We hope to be in front of the Planning Commission at the end of May and then on to City Council. The first phase of what we're planning is a building that's about 150,000 square feet. This will be for our group from Cole Center Parkway to move into this building. So it's a consolidation of that group. We just really have outgrown what those Cole Center Parkway buildings can provide us. And then there's a 3rd level here that will be office space. So the first 2 levels will be all of our manufacturing operations, some warehousing, and office space for them, and then future expansion office space on the 3rd floor. And then the full plan is to add additional buildings so that we total what the allowable 381,000 square feet, which would require then a parking garage to be able to park to meet the parking requirements for what we need on the site. So you can see by looking at this plan, we've taken great care to set these buildings back from the streets. We want to keep as many of these amazingly, great tall old trees as we can, everything that's not diseased or already that needs to come down because it's not doing well. But so we want to keep all these trees. So we've set these buildings back so that they don't, they're not just right up against the street, especially being very conscious of all the residences to the south. So we've pulled it back quite a bit from that south part. Here's some images of the building. This is the front door. So this is building 1. The other 2 are really just those blocks on a plan right now. The designs are not fully developed, but we've proceeded with designing these buildings at risk in parallel to the entitlement process. And so our front door to the building, so this is on the north side. Here's the 2-story portion, and then the 3-story portion is here where those offices will go. This view here is if you're in a drone flying over from Pleasanton Corporate Commons, so that northeast corner. And this again is the northeast corner, and then this is the southeast corner. We're pulling stairs out to the edge of the building we've also taken into account the pandemic designs, like pulling some good practices in that I would argue were good practices anyway, but making stairs very inviting for people to use so that they're not getting into elevators as much. It's great for wellness, as well as not putting people in closed spaces. We do have a little deck here off the 3rd floor. that will look out over the landscaping to the south and then the future buildings. So here is our timeline. We're currently, as I've mentioned, in the design and city approval process. We'll be starting that demolition and the water line movement for the offsite improvements. And then with all things, if all things go well, early August, we'll start the construction. And that's about a 15-month construction process. It's very fast tracked. And then to start moving our operations group in so that we're fully functional by the end of the year. And then the next building we think will be starting pretty soon after finishing this one. So right now we're focused on this first building and the first phase of the project. And then we'll be looking at the second building, and I anticipate that that will be more R&D labs. So that is what's going on with the project, and I'll pause there and I can take any questions that you have.
Great. Maybe we can unshare your screen and so we can make sure I see everybody. Just feel free to, we got a nice group of 21, 22 people. So feel free to raise your hand or speak up if you have any questions. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No questions? Okay, Mr. McCoy.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's really interesting and exciting, obviously, for our community. In addition to the stairs and everything, I'd just love to hear how your design has changed as a result of the pandemic, in terms of just a space allocation per employee and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so our space allocation, 10X has taken a view from the beginning to not cram people into office space too tightly, which is great. You know, when I've come from companies where we had that kind of desking system where people were pretty close together. I've seen some other layouts that it looks literally like picnic benches. So people are sitting almost shoulder to shoulder. We have 6 foot by 6 foot workstations, sort of cubicles. And so that keeps people more spread out already. We do have all open plan, but other things that we've looked at, and again, these weave very well into some other great practices in building design. We're designing individual restrooms so that there's just not the exposure of aerosols when people are in the restroom. That's a place where people tend to be in, you know, just a little bit closer quarters sometimes. We also think that that's just a good socially responsible way to design restrooms. And the other very important item is that we're designing the HVAC system to have a higher level of filtering. And we're looking at HEPA filters, at more air exchanges per hour. You know, a lot of this with COVID that we know it's spread through the air. So we want to keep that air very clean and fresh through the filtering and how we design that system.
Great. Brad, let me go to Lori first. I think she had her hand up, and then we'll hit you next, please. Thank you. Lori, go ahead.
Finally figured out how to put my hand up. Can you talk a little bit more about the exterior materials and design philosophy of the buildings?
Sure. So we, one of the things is this is our operations building, right? This first one. So we've been very conscious of budget while working to design a building that is very aesthetically pleasing as well. So we have a lot of glazing. We have what's called EIFS panels, which are a manufacturer. They kind of like actually I've discovered that a lot of homes that we think are stucco are actually not. They're these EIFS panels. So it's a fabricated product. And then there's also some metal panels. The design is, well, our architects are HOK. And we think they're doing a fabulous job for us. So and then DPR is our general contractor. So we've been balancing that cost versus aesthetic quite a bit, and we're really pleased with the result.
Brad,
Okay, Michelle, congratulations. This is a fabulous success story, and your presentation is outstanding. A couple of questions about full build out. When do you anticipate full build out, and what is your projected head count and number of parking places at full build out? Thank you.
Okay, our full build out, as far as timing, we think we'll be needing a second building in around 2025. So in 25, 26, and then the balance of the space before probably 2028 kind of projection. And if you'll give me just a moment, I will tell, well, I have to be really careful with saying how many people we'll have. So I'll just say it starts to get into a couple thousand. That's the direction that it heads.
Okay.
Our parking is at the city required 3.3 spaces per 1,000 square feet.
Thank you.
Michelle, let me hit her and then I'll come back to Steve McCoy Thompson.
I just want to say, Michelle, great job. I know you came to the Planning Commission and incorporated a bunch of things. The big thing I remember we talked about was getting rid of the dumpsters as you head down, Stone Ridge, so it looks nice coming into our little Stone Ridge Mall Road. But the other thing that they're always talking about is the community benefit of what the community's getting out of it. And you named one, the water line. I don't know, Steve, are you guys going to put like Augusta putting greens out there in the green area? Is that the other community benefit? And just elaborate on some of those. I think you're going to get that at the next Planning Commission meeting. So.
Okay, yeah, so there will be a walking path around the outside of the building and also some bicycle paths around the outside of the building. And I don't know, Pam, is it appropriate to talk about the one amenity that we've agreed to?
You haven't finished the DA process yet, the development agreement process. So I think you just suffice to say that 10X has really been talking to the city, Herb, about what other benefits there are. And as that process unfolds, we'll be sure and share those with the community. But 10X has been great throughout this process and recognizing that what they bring to the city, there's also some additional benefit. And so if you'll just give us the benefit of a few more weeks, we'll bring all that out when we start to talk about the DA. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
Thank you.
Great. Steve McCoy Thompson, then Mr. Olson. Oh, you're muted, Steve. Yeah.
You'd think I'd learn by now, right?
It's not a Zoom call unless somebody does that.
That's right, exactly.
That's very true. So I actually had one specific and one sort of general question. The specific is just, if you could talk about the personnel and where they're from, like how many are from Pleasanton and the region, and how many are commuting in, and then more generally, just from your experience as a facilities manager, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this grand vision of solar elements being baked into building materials, and how much is that a reality in the near future, or what?
Okay, so for the employee population, we have about almost 12% of our employees the current nearly 600 live in Pleasanton today. And then 35% are in the Tri-Valley. So the 5 cities. And another about 13% are in again, what I would consider Tri-Valley adjacent. So, technically, like Alamo's not part of it, or San Leandro, but it's right there, right? So places that are very close. So we certainly then draw our people in from the nearby area, so it's not too long a commute. We also were happy to be on the BART line, so that, it's a pretty easy walk to get from the West Pleasanton station to the 10X buildings there. So we can draw from some other locations as well. And then as far as the panels go, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's a matter of making things affordable as well as good ecological practices and sustainable practices. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done around all that.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. Arnie?
Right. Thank you, Steve. Terrific, innovative company, terrific story, and looks like a great project. And I wouldn't expect you'd encounter any pushback from the city on this, but recognizing that you're talking to a friendly audience at this point, have you encountered any pushback on this project from any elements of the community?
To my knowledge, we've not. And we have done some community outreach. We had a call with the adjacent, I mean, they're not owners, but the Stone Ridge Apartments, those residents, because we know that especially the construction is going to impact them the most, especially that water line. So we wanted to make sure that they were aware of what's going on. Last night, we had a call with one of the homeowners association boards, and we've got another one next week. We sent out postcards to all of the homeowners that are near to the project, so the ones just south of Stone Ridge Drive there, because we want to make sure we're reaching out, that we're letting people know what's going on. We don't want to surprise anyone. We have an email address. It's pleasantonre@10xgenomics.com, that if anybody has any questions direct to 10x, they can email us, and I'm on that, as well as some of my team, so we can respond to people. We'll be also publishing some phone numbers for people who, again, during construction, if there's something that comes up like, hey, you started at 5 minutes till 7 and you can't start till 7 or something like that. So far, and then, and there's also a city page, and that's published. We have a sign. Now the fencing went up a couple weeks ago, and we put signs on the outside of the fence that say proposed development for 10X. And then have that email address and also the website for the city that has the information about the project, which includes all the CEQA documents. So I have not heard any pushback, but Pam, I could ask you that one as well, if you've heard anything from the city perspective.
No, we're just doing what staff does, is working with you. 10X is the applicant and working through them, but nothing has crossed my desk that provides me any thought that there's a real big concern about it. It's as always in Pleasanton, it's about the details, right, and how we make it work. But everyone seems really interested and engaged in trying to help support our own businesses here.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Arnie. Thanks, Michelle. Herb, you had your hand up real quick there.
Yeah, I was just going to say the things that you might hear that I remember on Workday was the traffic issues around Christmas time, construction. Those will come up as issues, and then just pollution stops, all that. But the environmental will show all that. But I think the thing I remember the most from the Workday was the traffic coming in and out during construction time might be a challenge. So just a thought.
Oh, thanks, Herb.
Ken has his hand up too. Hi, Ken.
Hey, and Michelle, I want to add my thanks for your spending your time with us this morning. It's very, very interesting. Just real quickly, are these buildings planned to be, I think it's called LEED certified? And I know that Brock and Steve and Lori know all about that, I'm sure, but can you explain that?
Sure. We are looking to design the buildings to LEED certification, a LEED certification standard. We do have a challenge on the first building because there's solar, like to put solar in the parking lot, there's some different conflicting items to maybe we could or maybe we couldn't, but one of the main things is there's kind of no sense in putting something up and then having to tear it down a couple years later because we're building the parking garage. When we build the parking garage, I fully anticipate that we'll have solar across the top of it. The rooftops, we have a lot of HVAC equipment. And so that makes it challenging to get solar up there, but we're certainly looking at those LEED certifications or designing it to those standards. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great, Ron, you've got your hand up there. Go for it. We can't,
50 years.
oh, there we go. Now we can hear you.
Okay. As someone who looks 20 to 50 years down the road, are the buildings themselves reusable for other tenants, or they tear down themselves because they're specialty manufacturing?
No, I think they can be reused. It's easier to repurpose a building that's built for labs and convert it to office space or other kinds of uses than to do it the other way around. I've had some discussions with people. We hear these landlords saying, oh, we're going to make this into a biotech or a life science building. And if you don't have the right clearance from floor to floor or pathways to get exhaust out, more exhaust, then, buildings just, it's very difficult to convert them that direction. But to change something back to office or other purposes, these buildings end up being quite flexible, in my opinion.
Great, Steve Calcone.
Yeah, hi, Michelle. I thought this group might really take advantage of hearing how you've not only partnered with the city of Pleasanton, and they've been extraordinary, but maybe how you partnered with Simon and getting through that aspect, being the neighbors to the north. That might be a nice thing for this group to hear, how you work through those communications.
Right. Thanks, Steve. But yeah, so Simon, there are some CC&Rs that go with this property that require us to do certain things. Simon actually has design review of our project. And, these CC&Rs were written in the 80s and everybody agrees, I think, that they're pretty outdated, but they go until 2028. So that's what it is. So we've reached out, we've done multiple reach outs to the Simon Property Group to talk with them about our project, to make sure we're in compliance with those CC&Rs. There's also, we call them the benefited owners of those CC&Rs, the benefited parcels, which include Macy's, Nordstrom, and JCPenney. So we've met with those real estate people as well to talk about our project and to make sure that they are comfortable with it. We want the project to be, we're very interested in what Simon's going to do in redeveloping some of that land. And we think that some of the things that they're proposing are going to be great amenities to our people. I mean, I know of that, like 12%, I think it was, of people who live in Pleasanton, there are a few who live right there in those apartments, in Stone Ridge Apartments. And so they just get out of, kind of roll out of bed and walk over to the buildings. And so more housing there will be to our benefit. I saw something that a fitness center, those kinds of restaurants, all of those things will be great amenities for our people to use. And so we met with Simon like when we were in the offer stage for the land, because we wanted to make sure that they were comfortable with what we were doing and that they would be supportive of it. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, great question, Steve. That was on my list. Any other questions from I've got a couple I would like to just close things out. Mr. Ritter.
Sorry, Pam, can you give what's the update on what's going on with the other Simon stuff? Just time framed? I know they've come to the planning commission with the residential units and all that.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Herb. Right now, that's TBD. As you all might remember, quite literally in March of last year, right before we went into lockdown, Simon was at the Planning Commission talking about their second phase, which was really to talk to us about adding residential to the parcels that are already zoned for that. And, pandemic hits and they had to turn around and go off and really decide what they wanted to do. I'm sure as a company, they're trying to triage all their properties, right? We'll still stay attentive to Stone Ridge. Shortly after that, Nordstrom decided that they were going to close, which leaves both a hole and a really significant opportunity for Simon, right? So I have to believe that they went back and said, okay, let's look at our plans again to make sure we know what we're doing is holistically the right thing for the mall property, right? To maximize that benefit. So the short answer that's not short anymore is we don't know yet, Herb. We know we've been having conversations with them and expect Simon to come back here in the next couple months, but don't have anything more than that that's concrete to talk about. But they're still engaged, so that's the good news.
Great. Thank you, Herb and Pamela. So Michelle, thank you again. This is great. I mean, it's such a great project for the community, for the whole Tri-Valley for that matter. So, and we talked prior to this that the chamber will certainly be looking at supporting this and helping communicate that whenever we can to help the project move forward. We also are pleased we'll be having a article in our insert that goes into the weekly, our newsletter in May, so that we'll be talking about the project. So we're excited about promoting that as well. And I want to thank Pamela for helping connect me with Michelle. Thank you, Pamela. Appreciate it. So, I mean, I guess my question was, I don't know if you can say this, but what roughly is the investment that you're making in the city of Pleasanton with this project? Can you give us a rough estimate on what that would be?
That would be a tough one.
Okay, all right. I just think that's important for people to know. I mean, because I know it's a big number, and when you're careful or comfortable with that, just let me know. I would love to talk about that. I think that's really important.
Okay.
And then the synergies with Simon and your building and your employees, are you looking at having a robust cafeteria type setup similar to what we see at Workday, or is there going to be opportunities for them to eat across the street if there's with the restaurants that may be there or new ones that are coming? Any thoughts about that process and your design of the new buildings?
Yeah, so we do not have a cafeteria designed into our plans at this point. When we get to the full build out, we'll need to revisit that. And some of that really, it's going to depend on what Simon does. Because part of the challenge in that area, while there are some of those mall restaurants, they're not always the most convenient or the places where people want to go to eat. So we'll take a look at that down the road, but right now we don't have anything planned. So we want to support the community. We look forward to things opening back up so our people can go to them.
Oh, that's great. I think that's great to know. So we'll make sure everyone's aware of that. So any other last minute questions from anybody listening in? I don't see any. So I want to thank you again, Michelle. Thank you, Lori, for introducing her, and appreciate everybody being here. And let us know if we can help, and I'm sure we'll be in discussions in the near future. So thanks again, and we look forward to following the project.
Well,
Thanks,
thanks.
Michelle. Thanks, Michelle.
Very much.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, everybody. Okay,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Good night.